What we're going to do is start with measures D and E that are linked together, and I'm going to allow a half an hour for their statement. They told me the statement might only be 15 minutes, and certainly everyone will have the opportunity to ask questions. We have gentlemen on each side that will hand you the mic. I've been reminded that it's not an opportunity to make a statement, but to ask questions of our panel. So with the D and E ambulance folks, come up, and you can slide together if you want. And we'll start in just a moment. So let me rearrange these microphones for these folks, and we'll get started, unless anybody has any questions. Good.
So I'm Kathy Ratliff. I work for Trinity County Life Support. I have been active in EMS here in Trinity County for 30 years. Trinity County Life Support is a nonprofit. We have been a nonprofit for the last 26 years. It's a great company, good company, great care, and so why are we proposing a change? We have done a lot of things to make it work over these years. One thing is a shift structure. Our crews work a 24-hour shift and they're paid for 16. The crews work 3 24s consecutively if they're full-time. The shift structure is a barrier to recruitment, and it also, and more importantly, is stressful for crews and can be very fatiguing. We do run with a bare minimum of overhead staffing to make it work, and so that we can focus everything and all the finances that we have on patient care. For the last 5 years, the company has adopted budgets in deficit to keep patient care services intact and to keep 2 ambulances 24/7, one in Weaverville, one in Hayfork. The reasons for this, there are 2 pretty main reasons that are common to all rural services, and actually rural ambulances across our country are struggling and making choices and looking for solutions. And so one of the big challenges is a large area to serve with few resources, and the other, and low call volume, and the other reason is government reimbursements, meaning Medi-Cal and Medicare, both reimbursing at less than the cost our cost to give the service. So we've spent some time looking for the solution. There are some government funds out there that reimburse services for some Medi-Cal shortfalls. Those programs, however, are not available to a nonprofit. So our nonprofit structure, which has served pretty well, is now a little bit obsolete. So we explored partnerships with other agencies, other special districts in the county, specifically Trinity PUD and Weaverville Fire District. And we spoke about partnering, we met, we talked out what would happen, how we could partner to get access to those reimbursements. And what we found was any relationship of that type exposed those agencies to our shortfalls. And we also looked at partnering with Trinity Hospital, and it was the same. And just any partnership exposes the partner to our financial liabilities. So we kept looking. We pulled in county representation, we pulled in LAFCO, and a couple of EMS consultants as well volunteered their time to discuss it with us and look for the answer. And at the end of it, what we came up with is measures D and E, which we'll talk about tonight. We're at the point, truly, we've made it work for a long time, and we're at the point that we really need to make a change to be able to care for you with our best and take care of our crews and do take some steps that we need to preserve their jobs and give great care. So, and just really bring the service into the future and know that it will be there and be healthy. So with that, I'll turn you over to Todd, who's going to talk about the measures.
Good evening. My name is Todd Corbett. I'm the current chief of Weaverville Fire Department. And just kind of explaining measures D and E. D is what forms the community service district for the ambulance company, and E is what proposes a parcel assessment. The parcel assessment will be $83 per parcel within the district for improved parcels, structures on them, and then $48 for unimproved. Both must pass, D and E both must pass for the district to be formed. Without the measures, we don't really have a certainty of we can continue 24/7 ambulance. Right now we staff 2 ambulances, one over in the Hayfork area, one in Weaverville that covers the lion's share of Trinity County, and there's just no certainty that that staffing can continue. It's very hard now, and will be even harder without D&E to recruit or retain staff at the ambulance service. And it's already affecting our abilities to properly staff the 2 ambulances with paramedics and EMTs for both the shifts. It could affect, it's looking at affecting the local fire departments by 2 reasons. One, without having 2 24/7 staffed ambulances, it's looking at longer commitment on scene times for the volunteer fire departments, and it's also risk losing a good source of medical training for the fire departments that receive it through TCLS. And then simply we just can't sustain our current operations without stabilizing our funding. And turn it over to Sean.
So my name is my name is Sean Torre. I'm the clinical director for Trinity Life Support. I've been there for about 4 years. I'm going to be incoming here in a few months to replace Kathy. I also work as a flight paramedic for Reach Air Medical, and I've also worked as an EMS specialist and an investigator for Northern California EMS, which is the Emergency Medical Services Authority that oversees Trinity County EMS. I was asked about 4 years ago by Kathy when I met her to work part-time and work on clinical training and education for Trinity. And you know, I was super excited. She asked me; it was a no-brainer. Being on the helicopter for the last 7 years, I respond to a lot of scene calls throughout the entirety of Northern California, working with a lot of local fire departments and ambulance services. And Trinity Life Support is always our favorite. The employees are so patient care driven, big patient advocates, eager and hungry to get training and be educated. And I can honestly say, from Sacramento to Medford to Reno to the Pacific Ocean, by far the best ambulance service that's out there. You know, so when I came up and I started, I have a lot of critical care training, and critical care education, and we took the protocols that are available to us from the LIMSA and we maximized. We did as much as we could to get, we got our paramedics and our EMTs very much critically care trained. We were doing, prior to that training and education, there's a lot of interfacility transfers that come out of Trinity Hospital that go down to Reading, some to UC Davis, etc. A lot of those patients didn't need to fly; they could go by ground. And I knew when I was at Reach, we were probably flying 3 to 4 patients a week. So by maximizing this training and education, the crews we were actually able to take them by ground, and that 3 to 4 patients a week we were flying turned into about 3 a month. And by doing that, it was, I think the patients were getting great care, but again, we were keeping that money local, and we weren't, and also it really kind of changed your bill that you got from $80,000 for a flight, down to $3,000 to $4,000 for ground transport. That being so remote and so rural as we are in Trinity County, Hayfork, High Palm, especially the weather for the most part of the year with fog, can't fly in and there's no helicopters available. So our employees are, they're picking up sick, very sick patients, and they're with them for an hour and a half to 2 hours, sometimes doing transports down to Reading to get them to appropriate facilities. That critical care education, it goes miles with that, and well beyond that basic paramedic and basic ALS skill. These employees have had just a can-do attitude. They have volunteered time. If you think about it, they work a 72-hour shift. They're only paid for 48 of that. 24 hours of their life they're giving. And we've had to do that so we can stay in service. And also working that 3 days a week, it gets stressful and whatnot.
Did I just hear you say that you have employees that are working on their own time, 24 hours?
The way, yeah, it's legal. It's a lot of ambulance services do that. They're paid. They work a 24-hour shift. They're paid for 16 of it, but they're not paid for their sleep time.
They're supposed to be sleeping.
Right. But if their sleep time is interrupted, they get a call. They're paid for that, the remainder of those hours, all those hours. Yes. But being that way, it's really hard to recruit paramedics and EMTs. So, and then the other thing that we do with training and education is we grow our own. We have an EMT class that we do every year that Lisa Howell teaches, which is an excellent program, and we teach them around Trinity County training life support. We do training and education for all the local fire departments, and the way that it's structured here, there's nothing like that in Northern California, and I can honestly say that having worked with all the counties. The EMR training, CPR training, we do for the fire departments pretty much at cost, and so we don't charge them any extra, but all the fire departments within the county get training and education from us. We do run reviews every month where we go over runs that we had, and then we also have topics. 1 month might be cardiac and respiratory that I come in and teach, and it's open to all the fire departments. And we also do CPR training and stuff to the public also. So, but by adopting this, what that will do is we will be able to change that shift structure down to a 48 hours on and 96 off. They will be paid for that 48 hours. That will reduce stress, fatigue. We'll be able to we'll be more competitive in the recruitment market, and being able to get EMTs and paramedics to come and work for us. It will also maintain the ability for all that critical care education. We look everywhere for dollars. Kathy has written multitudes of grants. To keep us afloat. And but anyway, we just really hope that you guys will consider voting for those measures. We appreciate it. And I think now questions. I think. If anybody has any questions or... Yes, ma'am.
Is the 48 on and 96 off? Is that industry standard?
Yes, it is. It is.
I was asking if the 48 hours on and 96 off is industry standard. I was a nurse in Orange County, and I know a lot of EMS paramedics, and I don't know how it is with fire specifically, but I don't remember that being industry standard there 5 years ago, but anyways.
Right. So every agency adopts their own shift structure. A lot of agencies, you can take AMR and Reading for example. They're a union shop, so the union kind of dictates how they work. One of the things in Reading that they went to some years ago was a 12-hour shift because of the call volume was so heavy. When I worked there, we worked a rotating Kelly schedule where you did 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, and then 4 off. But on those 24-hour shifts, we were awake the solid 24 hours, probably transporting 8, 9, 10 patients a shift. With the call volume that's here, that 48-96 structure, it works really well. And that's there's other agencies that do that also. We don't have, when you go to a 12-hour shift structure, you have to hire double the employees, so you have that much more cost in FTEs. But yeah, the 48-96, and the crews, they love that. They're able to come in, do their work, get done, go home.
How many will be running then? How many crews?
2 ambulances, one in Weaverville, one in Hayfork.
So they're a two-man team?
Yes. Yeah, we work a one-on-one system with paramedic and EMT. Yes, you're welcome.
Some questions that I've heard in talks with some friends is, I have a few questions. What will be your district lines? I mean, not exact streets, but it's been, we're not really sure, as you form this special district, what that will encompass. What areas are we looking at? All of Trinity County or just specific areas of the county? Is that one question?
The answer to that is our service area footprint does not change. It's easier to tell you the areas that we don't cover within Trinity County. We do not cover Mad River or Kenton-Pomzenia in the south. That is covered by STAR. We do not cover Hawkins Bar and Sawyer. That is Hoopaw's service area. The rest of Trinity County is covered by us.
I have been a guest in one of your traveling hospitals, so I thank you for being here, 100%, because I wouldn't be here without you. So I just want to say that. I think it's important that you stay here. How did you arrive at the numbers for the parcel tax? And that might go with some of the other questions. Because you have 2 ambulances right now, one in Hayfork, one in Weaverville. Are you going to purchase any more? And the money right now, is that just to pay the current staff? Will you be beefing staff? And how many additional staff will be added? But how did you arrive at the numbers?
We arrived at the numbers using 5 years of budget projections and staffing, implementing the 4896 schedule for the crews. The 4896 requires that we hire 4 additional medical staff, and so and with that 4 extra added staff, we build in backup response capabilities. We have, as you said, one ambulance in Hayfork and 1 in Weaverville, and we have 2 here in Weaverville ready for backup response. Those ambulances are currently dependent on off-duty personnel to come in, and we do not have any on-call pay for people. And with the measures D&E, we not only beef up the staff, we have 8 full-time staff now for ambulances, we'd have 12. And that addition just builds our capabilities to be able to surge when it's busy, back up, and it's local hiring, and so
So you have the ambulances here, and this would help when they're needed?
We add staff. We write grants for equipment, and we have an ambulance purchase pending this next week, which was about over 80% funded by grants.
Well done.
So.
Right, Gus Cormeyer. Yeah, okay. I've been on the TCLS board for the last 7 years, and I'm running for one of the board positions. I get to run for my seat. The ambulances are on a regular replacement schedule, so it's every 3 years.
Just about 5 years, more like
Yeah.
150,000 miles. They retire to second out.
They put the miles on pretty darn fast, and so they're in the most recent one. We've gotten 2 or 3 grants on it, and so stretching it constantly. The thing I'd like to, while I'm holding the mic, is Kathy's been the director as long as I've been on the board, and well, 2 things. One, as a firefighter responding to calls, I'm always happy to see her because I know she's got the biggest heart in the county. The other part is that she's been putting in just countless volunteer hours to make sure that she covers her job while she's, as a director, while she's also running calls. It's just, it's shoestring, people caring, and it's been making it work for years. But the budgets we've been passing have been in the hole. And, part of it's the reimbursement rates, because over 70% of the call volume are Medicare, Medi-Cal, reimbursements, which don't cover the full cost. Then you've also got the fact that minimum wage has been going up, which is one of the things that bothers me the most being on this board, is that our EMTs are making pretty much right about minimum wage. And to me, as a firefighter and seeing what they do, this is probably one of the most dangerous jobs in the county. So that's kind of why I'm here and hoping everybody will vote for it. So, thank you.
If you have questions, hold up your hand and one of us will get to you with a mic. Even if you can holler loud enough for the people on the stage to hear you, the people behind you can't hear you. So hold up your hand and either Scott or myself will get a mic too. Thank you.
Sorry, I have another question. Oh, so they're projecting. Okay, so something you just brought up about her taking doing volunteer hours answering calls.
No.
Okay.
She's covering calls while she's working.
While doing okay.
That's what I'm saying, she has to balance.
But you're leaving. He's replacing you. Is that what I heard when I first came in? Okay. So are you going to do that same stuff too?
Absolutely.
Okay. Just wondering.
We already do.
Here, I heard about her big heart, but what about yours?
Right, yeah, no, we all do that now. And so generally, you know, if the Weaverville ambulance goes out on a call or they do an interfacility transfer to Reading, that puts them out of their response area for 2 hours at minimum, a lot of times pushing 3. So what we do is, you know, if another call comes down, all the employees have a pager or radio, they hear it, they'll go and they'll come in and we'll respond to the call. Or what we do now is Kathy will jump on the ambulance, or I will drive to the call and then provide care. And a lot of times Todd here, he's on the call, he jumps off and drives the ambulance to the hospital. You know, we kind of shift around and make it work. By adopting, kind of one of my plans is by adopting this shift structure, we will have that ability to, say, have an EMT and pay them to be on call. Take the ambulance home with them, they're here local, and then if a call comes down, then I hop on and then we go. And we can run that backup call.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you see Roger and I holding on to the mics, there's a reason for that, so that people are fairly brief in their questions. So again, this is about asking questions of our members down here on stage.
So I apologize for not already knowing the answer, but can you please tell me what is the yearly cost? And then this is being done through a parcel tax of homeowners only, correct?
The parcel assessment is $83 for an improved parcel. It's $48 for an unimproved. Does that answer your question? Is that the question?
Yes.
And there is no current assessment.
Roger up the top, Jim.
Thank you. My question is, I guess one of the obvious questions, what happens if these measures don't pass? Both with regard to service in the short term and the longer term, from your vantage point.
I'll start. We've talked about this, and we don't have a certain concrete answer for you. What we do know is we have built reserves over the years, and which is almost impossible to do as a healthcare provider in Trinity County. We've built them by contract staffing of fire camps, and that's occasionally possible, unfortunately, for our homes. But those are declining, and we will not have stability in another year. We're at a point where it's difficult to operate and hire people knowing that we may not be able to pay them. We have talked about, you know, people ask, what if we have a big company purchase the ambulance service? And that we know, we've seen what happens when a big company purchases a small rural service. Services decline because it's not operated as a healthcare service that's essential for that community. It's operated as a business, and so service levels will decrease were that the case. And so the question is to the community, what level and what type of service do you want? And because we feel like this is the solution for stable service into the future, where you know the ambulance will be there to respond when you call.
And that also goes with those big companies, if they would even come and purchase. I worked for 20 years for American Medical Response, which is the largest ambulance provider in the world currently. Their model is and we actually looked at Trinity County probably 15 years ago from Shasta County, and they go in and look at counties to see if they can make money. I mean, that's really what it's about. I know if you had a company that was to come in here, Hayfork there's not enough call volume in Hayfork to sustain an ambulance. And so we do it, like, again, shoestring, and we make it work. If a large company came in here, there's no way. We would pull that ambulance out of Hayfork, would get one in Weaverville, and then they would flip around and start asking for a subsidy to support it. I wrote a lot of RFPs for AMR for certain areas, and that's really their model. And the other thing that they do with those larger companies, you don't get. We do monthly run reviews. We do hands-on education. I come in. I'll do a vent lab every couple months. We bring pig lungs in. We do that hands-on training. They don't do that. Most, especially down in Shasta County, they're a union shop, so the requirement is that you pull an employee in or have them come in, you have to pay them a minimum of 4 hours. They won't do that. So it's better to have them do online training every 4 hours, do online training when they're on duty, so they're not paying extra for those employees. So that level of care is really, it goes into the toilet. It's nothing like what we do here.
Okay, not a question, I'm sorry, but a comment. Tim Saxon, I've been on the board of directors for Trinity County Life Support for about 16 years. I am not running for a seat this time, obviously, because I ran for another seat. But I would like to say that this company has been awesome the time that I've been involved with it. Everybody that's currently serving on the board has been doing a wonderful job. We've been dipping into reserves the last few years simply because of increased costs and reduced reimbursements from the governmental agencies that we've been having to deal with. As Gus was mentioning, we pay our people, the EMTs, barely above minimum wage. Nothing against the people that work in the fast food industry, but they're making minimum wage. And honestly, when you're on the floor waiting for somebody to come and save your life, I think it's a little more important that the people coming in the ambulance should make a little bit more money than somebody that's flipping your burgers. This is a very serious crisis that we're having in our rural communities across the country. I think it's important that we all pay attention and read carefully what's going on. My wife and I have been in Trinity County for about 22 years. We're still newbies. A lot of you in this room have been here when it was a private company running the ambulance service in Trinity County. And you remember when they just up and said, we're done, and they left. That's what could happen again if a private company were to come into Trinity County and they said, hey, we're not making any money. They could leave. We don't want that to happen. That's why this is really important. Pay attention, read it, and you make your decision. So, thank you.
Back over here, Roger.
Could you clarify what percentage of the vote is needed to pass this? Is it correct that it's 2/3 of the vote in order to get this passed?
You are correct. The Measure E, which is the parcel assessment, requires 2/3. Measure D only requires a majority. They both have to pass in order for the district to form.
Any more questions for these two measures? All right. Well, how about a round of applause for these folks?
Thank you.
And I'm sure they'll stick around so you can ask questions. And from past experience, it's a heck of a lot easier being out there than it is up here.